Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the 12-month video game repair challenge. I'll cover the rules a little bit later, but let's jump into some of the stuff that sold this past month since it was massive. Alright, starting things off strong. March 1st, and I sold a console. Not only one, but two consoles. Both of them sold for about $100. This one was $100 and this one was $110. Good start. Just sold the Sega Genesis Model 2 that I cleaned up. Has a little bit of damage on the outside, but still looks pretty good for $60. Just had another sale for both of these blue controllers with the replacement cables for $29.97 each. Just sold this black Game Gear with replaced capacitors and a replaced front screen for $129.97. It also had the other little wrist strap attachment. I have a bunch of these. I just got to start throwing them on the next batch that I make, so awesome. Another one gone. Alright, it was bound to happen, but I got my first return. It was the Sega Genesis that I had just gotten fixed up and sent out. The guy had said that the reset button is stuck and it doesn't work right. Looks like it's fine, but I'll test it and see what happens and let you guys know. So I tested this unit and the reset button does work, but it's not consistent at all and really tough to activate. I took it apart really quick and wanted to clean the contacts inside the button to see if that would fix the problem. You can just peel back this rubber top and the contact is right underneath. Simple fix, but I must have just missed it during cleaning last month. Here I am testing it. It seems to be a bit more responsive now, but I'll put back the lid to retest it to make sure it's still good. With the lid on, it's about a 75% hit rate when you press the button, so it does work, but you do need to press it down harder than usual. I'll relist this unit with a note stating that, but I'm going to call it fixed for now. Also, here are the rules that I've set out for myself with the challenge. First off, no debt. I start with $0 and I need to repair and sell items that I already have to make enough money to buy new parts and new items to fix. The goal is $10,000 in sales by the time I'm done too. Number 2 is I have a maximum of 7 hours a week to do any testing and repairs. Number 3 is there's no cost for supplies and tools I already own. And number 4 is to share everything. One summary video each month until the 12 months are done. We're coming into this month with $358.74, so I picked up some more stuff that I know I'll need for future repairs. Just got my next order from XYAB. Let's check out what I picked up. Got a few Xbox 360 black battery housings. I know I have at least one controller without one, but I got an extra just in case I find more. Also picked up another Sega Genesis Model 2 AV cable for testing. I used my last one with the bundle that I just relisted, so I'll definitely need another one. In addition to that, I also got 2 Model 1 AV cables. These will go with the bundles that I fixed last month, and now I can get them online too. Got 10 sets of the original Xbox AV and power cables for the ones I'm going to be fixing in the future, so I can list those right away as well. Also got some more replacement cords for Xbox controllers since I used all of them up in the first batch I was working on. I'm sure I'll need some more since I just got this package in. It is more original Xbox controllers. Let's get it unboxed. So let me get all these laid out. And then I can show you what I actually picked up. Well, all the way at the bottom, had one casualty. Just a Duke that got cracked. Yeah, these are so fragile though. Alright, here's all the new controllers that I just picked up. I'm really sad about this one. It looks like it ripped the screws right out of the front here and it cracked the entire housing, so I don't know if this one's going to be viable anymore. I'll take a look at it, but yeah, that's it's not sitting in there very well. But I'm gonna go through and test these. Looks like somebody actually went through and did a little bit of testing to denote what was wrong with each one of these, but I'll confirm that and just see. But have a few more regular controllers. This one's missing a thumbstick. This one needs a thumbstick. I noticed a couple busted cords. I'll check these to see if these are actually true to what it says on the front, and have a couple colored ones as well. The one blue one and 2 green ones. Total of 16 controllers in total, and I spent $95.99 if I remember correctly on this whole lot with shipping included. So I'll get them all tested and we'll see what we find out. Here's an interesting one. Notice anything wrong? Just got done testing all of these. I have all the numbers right here. Something really interesting is the one that broke actually works pretty well. The right stick drifts a little bit, but I think it's because this stick is completely destroyed on the inside. There, just take it out and just, yeah. Anyway, yeah, this one actually works really well. Ironic that one actually does work. Very different set of issues related to these versus the first batch that I did. 4 of them have stick drift. 3 of them, no connection whatsoever, which could be that same problem that I keep running into, or it could be that it means that it has a bad cord, because there are 3 that have bad cords for sure. I already chopped them off. They just weren't connecting whatsoever. 3 with cross connections, which is really bizarre. So like this one, the left stick acts as the left trigger, and it kind of drifts too. This one, there's no right trigger, but the left trigger equals the right trigger. And this one, there's no right trigger, but it's on the left stick. So those could be like really big board problems associated with these that might not be able to be fixed. I'd have to look into it. We'll see. But for cleaning issues, it's really just sticky buttons or things like that. So overall, very different set of issues compared to all of these, but not necessarily unfixable issues. I originally bought this lot for just these black S controllers because I'm running out of them for my Xbox console sets that I make, and I needed some more. I do have more left. I just didn't want to use them all and figured might as well start working on some more of these now before I actually need them in the future. But really sad about this one. It's ironic that this one actually is the one that's working too. So we'll see what the rest of them bring and get them all fixed, hopefully. I'll run through some of these quick since I've already covered fixing similar problems in previous videos, but first up is the broken Duke housing. Pretty easy to fix since I have a spare. Remember this one? It got scrapped along with its cord, but it'll be put to good use in this one. Next up, this one just needs a new cord. Presto changeo, it's done. The first green one also needs a new cord and some thumbsticks. And one rumble motor too. Boom, fixed. New thumbsticks, easy peasy. The second green one, with some light stick drift too. Cleaned it up with IPA and it's feeling a lot better now. Hopefully that fixes the issues. The first dreaded no connection issue, and without a thumbstick too. The cord feels messed up inside because it's got this flat spot right here. And look at the rest of it. This has to be a cord related problem because if it's all twizzled up like this, that means that it's been pulled on and stretched, which could have also caused damage to the wires as well. I'm gonna go with my gut on this one and replace the cord completely and swap in some new sticks too. It looks great now, and I'll set it with the others for testing. Another non-connection, but the cord is looking a lot better than this last one. I'm hesitant to cut this one, and I'll just probe it and clean the inside really good and test it again to see if that fixes it first. This next one has a left thumbstick problem for sure. It could be because it's very dirty, but it feels kind of grindy when it's moving to the right. I'll check it out first, but this one might need to get swapped out. The inside is very dirty, but even after cleaning, it still just feels wrong. It's hard to see, but it's very sluggish, and I'm just going to swap it out. I just released a much more detailed video about this entire process that you can watch here, but I'll run through it really quickly for you now too. Start by removing the trigger assembly from the left side to get access to the thumbstick solder points underneath. Then desolder all the points on the bottom. There will be a total of 14. The old stick should just pop right out of its place, but if it doesn't, just reheat each of the locations to get it to break free. Once it's out, I would highly recommend cleaning the area with some IPA before popping the new stick in place too. Once the new stick is in, solder it down and reassemble in reverse order. Not too difficult. The hardest part about this entire thing is finding the correct analog sticks to use as replacements. ALPS was the original manufacturer, and it can be very difficult to find another good source to purchase ALPS products from. Luckily, I bought these in packs of 10 from XYAB, and they also sell ALPS. But for those of you that only need 1 or 2 sticks to fix your own collection, you may have a harder time finding some. After a lot of searching, I found some links where you can get small quantities for yourself, and I'll include them in the description below. Just be aware that these replacements are not 100% like the originals, and will perform slightly different, but will still work. Really, the best option is to use parts from a junk controller that still has good sticks. Then you can get the exact same parts, but this will not always be an option for everybody either. Until a manufacturer comes out with the exact same unit, these replacements are the best options for now. Some people have no issues with them whatsoever, but I know the purest of us collectors might. But once I was done with the analog stick, I added another thumbstick to replace the one that was missing and did a little cleaning to the housing before calling it done for testing. And if you're looking for a manufacturer to get replacement PCBs, or maybe even your own designs from, you should check out PCBWay, which is today's video sponsor. PCBWay.com is a printed circuit board manufacturer that provides a wide variety of options for prototyping and assembly. Speaking of assembly, PCBWay has many different options for it too. Most interesting to me is the Flex PCB assembly services. And they've recently announced that they're able to print full color images directly onto custom PCBs now too. It uses UV curable inks, which also provide a high quality image transfer on multiple substrates, including the Flex PCBs too. I would like to thank PCBWay for sponsoring today's video, and be sure to check out PCBWay.com for all your project's needs. Now back to the fixes. Next controller was a Duke with D-pad issues and a broken front face. It's really too bad no one sells replacement shells for these bad boys. They break so easily, and I'm guessing a lot of people would be very happy to see a replacement shell available online for them to purchase. I cleaned up the D-pad with some IPA and grabbed another spare front I had from the last batch of controllers. But right as I was going to install it, I noticed the rear housing had a missing screw cover and had a chip in the lower corner too. It's really too bad, but I ended up mending it with some super glue. I let it dry before closing up the housing and set it aside for testing with the rest. Another no connection with a decent looking cord. I did the same thing as with the black one. I cleaned it up and probed the board connections to the cord end to check for a break. No issues found, so I did some more cleaning and replaced the sticks to get ready for testing. The absolutely destroyed Duke controller. This one was hit so hard inside the box that every screw stud snapped off from the front shell. I had to completely remove the circuit board to pry the plastic studs from the screws too. Fortunately, the rear shell was in good shape yet, and I inspected and cleaned the board up to remove any leftover bits of plastic. To my surprise, the right thumbstick was actually in good shape and didn't break off like I had originally thought. So I grabbed my last replacement front shell and nestled this one back together. This shell still has some damage on one of the studs too, but it's a lot better than the first one, and it does still screw back together. Now we're getting into the interesting ones. This one is from earlier that I showed being tested. The left trigger acts as both the left and the right trigger at the same time. Very strange problem, but all became clear when I took a look at the board. It appears someone tried and failed to repair the trigger and instead left a mess in its place. The contacts look to be burned, and I don't even think they're truly attached to the board at all anymore. Look, if you're gonna try soldering repairs for the first time, watch a how-to video before you do, kinda like this one. It might help you. But I cleaned it up to get a better look and started to remove the solder from the contacts. This solder was really thick too, almost like a paste when removing it. I don't know what type was used previously, but it certainly didn't behave like the solders I know and use. I was able to remove most of it, but ended up clipping off the ends of the pins to take it off completely. This trigger was attempted to be repaired once before, so I figured it was probably best to just use a replacement trigger anyway. But now the real problem was found. The pads that attach the 3 trigger pins to the board are gone, and the holes appeared to be burned. If I was a betting man, I would say they tried to use a knife to clean the contacts, which caused all of these scratches. Then they may have damaged the pads further by using too much heat in order to remove them, which not only burned the board, but also removed them completely, and when they put them back, they used the wrong type of solder without any flux, which leads us to what we have here. Not impossible to fix, but we need to do some surgery. I removed the top of the solder mask from each of the test points that are still attached to the board, leading to where the solder pads should be. I used a knife and slowly removed the top layer until you could see the bright copper underneath. Then grabbed some extra component legs that I saved exactly for this reason and made these. These patch parts will act like the pads and not only hold the pins in place, but also secure them to the board with solder. I added some flux to the area and carefully slid the first patch into place over the pin in the direction of the first test point. The flux helps it to stay in place during the first few milliseconds of soldering, but I'll use the tweezers to properly hold it so it doesn't come off when I remove it from the heat. And there you have it. I'll get the others in place before testing each pin, but this should hold much better and also attach it to the circuit too. But of course, since these are so tiny, they can be dropped easily, which is exactly what happened with the next one. Twice. I placed it down, but I didn't like how it was sitting, so I skipped this one and came back after finishing the bottom one. I ended up using a longer leg for the middle one so I could get it in the exact position I needed it to be in. Then trimmed it down once it was attached and tested each of the connections. All of them appeared to be attached well, but I also didn't want them to be touching each other either. A quick probe of the multimeter confirmed everything was good, and I added a little green nail polish over the joints to protect them. On to the next one. This one had a very similar problem, but instead of both triggers activating with a left trigger pull, the right trigger was completely dead and it was somehow mapped to the left stick. Turns out someone had performed a similar hack to this one, but didn't bother to put any of the solder back when they were done. The middle of the 3 pads was missing too, so I'll repair it basically in the same way as the first one. One thing to note is that this board is a revision B, and the first one was a revision A. Also, I have a slightly different location to attach my patch to this time. Instead of the test point, I'm going to gently scrape away the mask on the trace which leads downward. This gives me some solid real estate to attach the patch to. Then solder the top pad in first, and then the section by the trace second to make sure it is in the right position. Solder in the other 2 points, and test to make sure everything is right where it should be. Cover the patch with some homemade solder mask and reassemble. I ended up swapping out the front housing on this one too since the screw studs were damaged, but now it looked good and ready for testing. Another one with a similar problem, but it's a Duke this time. The left stick won't click in, it drifts, and also acts like the left trigger, so someone probably hacked this one up too. Or not. The board is in great shape, and after some probing, I couldn't find any issues with it at all. I'm going to swap out the left stick and reheat all the joints in the area to see if that fixes the problem. Next up is another Duke with no rumble and a lot of right stick drift. This board is also really clean like the last one, and normally drifting sticks can be fixed by giving them a good cleaning. But in this case, they're already really clean, so I'm going to swap this one out. Also, the rumble motors weren't plugged in, so that solves that problem. I swapped the stick really quick and got into testing the whole batch. The Duke that I swapped the left stick on has 0 response and nothing is fixed at all. This one probably has some major issues that are completely unseen to me. The ones with the poorly done trigger repairs all work as they should now, which is great. Here's the breakdown of everything. Alright, I just got through testing these next batches of controllers, and these are all good. But these were really interesting. Having no right trigger function, but a lot of left trigger function, because it was kind of like they were working in unison. I'll have to explain it further, but I'm wondering if it doesn't sense the presence of the right trigger or the left trigger, it must act as both with one on these boards. At least that's my best guess, is maybe if it doesn't sense the component in place in circuit, then maybe it just doesn't register that the other one is there and then automatically starts using that one because there's no resistance in that circuit. This is all just kind of spitball random thoughts, but the same thing was with this one too. The right trigger had no response whatsoever, and it was mapped to the left stick, which is so strange. But once I was able to fix the bad solder joints that were in here, that went away on the stick, and now it works perfectly fine. So it's got to be something where each of the components, if they're not registering in the circuit, that it just activates it, which would make sense. But very, very strange, odd problems with those. But all these in good shape. Got 12 of them. These 4, however, still having some problems. These 2 have the same non-connection issues like we see in the last few batches that I was going through, or the last batch I was going through in the previous videos. I did not replace the cords on these, and maybe that's what these need. I'll take a look at those again. Maybe they'll be fixed. This one, the A button just does not want to work, so I have something in mind that might be able to fix that I saw. But we'll come back to that one as well. This one, however, it probably is just going to get scrapped. The click-in is just not working whatsoever. As you saw in the video, it's just kind of moving around randomly. It doesn't even register. What's so weird is that this one is such a clean board. So I don't know what would potentially cause that or have any issues, but it's like there's just no registration whatsoever from the thumbstick, but it will register the D-pad. just no thumbstick. So I'm guessing there's some massive board problem that is just unseen, and I'm gonna probably scrap this one out, use the housing to replace other housings in the future. So pretty happy with that. 4 more to work on, 12 total fixed. Awesome. I cleaned this one previously hoping that it would fix the non-working A button, but still nothing. I read this a while ago, but apparently the black mask on the board can get damaged, and when the buttons are pressed, they don't register anymore. You can buy these little sticky pads that go over these locations that act as replacement black masking, but let's try a cheaper method first, adding some graphite to the pad. The best source of graphite that I can think of is a pencil. I rubbed over the masking with crosshatches to make sure I was coating the entire area, and now let's do another test. And now it's working great. Free and super easy fix too. This last blue controller works now too by adding in a new cord. In total, I spent 8¼ hours fixing and testing this new batch of controllers, which is way faster than my first batch too. Okay, so I got this one working with that little fix with the graphite. You just kind of scrub on to that little black sheet that's on the circuit board there. This one's all good. This one was really surprising. I threw a new cord on it, and then it all of a sudden started working. It had some stick drift, so I swapped this stick out as well, but this one's working great. It's just so strange that these don't connect sometimes, even though I tested the cord and it was in great shape. It tested good, everything was fine, but you swap it and it's working. So weird. This one though, for giggles, I swapped the cord on this one too, but nothing. The old cord tested good. I looked at the board. Board looks great. No idea. It's just that phantom problem of it just not connecting whatsoever. But I'm still happy I fixed these 2 pieces out of this lot. Sad that this one isn't working, but yeah, it gives me some more spare parts, and moving on to the next stuff. So in total, I got 14 total controllers fixed out of this lot, out of the 16. So pretty good. Awesome. Since I had some more controllers to use in bundles, I wanted to get some easier Xbox consoles fixed up and listed. I jumped into the ones that had disk drive issues, since swapping out the drive bands is pretty easy. The drive bands on the Samsung and Philips drives are easy to get at from the front with the tweezers like I showed you in the last video, but the Thomson drives have to be cracked open to get at the band directly. I'll probably make a separate video about it to explain everything more in depth, but just know that not every drive is as easy as the ones that I showed last month. On this first unit I had already swapped the drive belt, but it kept ejecting the tray. I opted to remove the drive and clean it thoroughly with some IPA before removing the clock cap from the motherboard. This cap was for sure leaking, so I checked the bottom of the motherboard to make sure no other damage had occurred, but everything looked fine. The other cap still looked great, so I cleaned it up and set it aside for testing. I had the exact same problems with the second one too. Disk drive won't stay closed and a bad clock cap. The other caps looked good too, and I checked the bottom of the motherboard again for any other issues, but thankfully didn't find anything. I cleaned up the area by the leaky cap and replaced the bands of 6 other disk drives before doing some testing. Alright, so all of these had sticky disk drives, or at least they were labeled that way, so we'll see if this fixes them, but I replaced all of the little rubber cables, and they're all a little oblong or weirdly shaped, so I'm hoping that fixes these, but we'll see. The cleaning of the drives and the new bands seem to fix most of the drive issues. It's surprising to me, but about a half the consoles I'm opening now have leaky clock caps, so it's really a major issue for these. If you haven't removed yours already, I would recommend you do, because it looks like they will go bad eventually. Alright, just tested these 6 units. All of them had disk tray issues of some kind, like minor ones where they weren't popping out or they were sticky or whatever it happened to be. I replaced all the rubber bands on these and they all work. All the ports work, they turn on, everything else is good. I still have 2 that are having some issues. This one suddenly can't read discs, and the one that's on the bottom actually is having problems turning on. It just won't turn on at all now for some reason, which is really strange, but whatever, that's fine. We'll fix that later. But hey, we've gotten 6 that are done that I all got to clean up, and I can put on bundles and throw them online. But I got to get these off my table because I'm pretty sure it's going to break it. These things are like lead weights. Got all 6 of the units nice and cleaned up and ready for listing. And since I was swapping out so many of these drive bands, I've picked up another 20 of them for the rest of the drives I've yet to do. Just sold 2 original Xbox sets with the rubber bands swapped out in the drives, with all the cords and the cables and a single controller, and each of them have the DVD sensor as well. And each one of these was $119.97. I then moved on to my last few Game Gears and wanted to see if I could use up the rest of my old capacitor kits in the process too. I have a few blue Game Gears left and I couldn't remember why I hadn't fixed these yet. Well, I was reminded very quick with this one. This is some of the worst corrosion I have ever seen in a Game Gear. And I can't believe it, but the inside is even worse. Oof, that just looks bad. I'm gonna need to take a lot of time with this one. How did it continue to grow and infect the entire inside too? Sleep well, my sweet prince. I'll get to you eventually. Just not right now. I also found this one, which is the exact opposite of my horrible looking blue one. Super clean inside and out, and a perfect candidate for replacement caps. I actually found 4 of them that are perfect candidates. The main boards on these all went really well, but the sound and power boards looked like this. I ended up using some of the old boards that I had previously fixed to swap in for 2 of these since they were so badly corroded as well. The installs went well, but unfortunately I failed to notice a screen issue with this light blue one. See the black bar at the bottom? Yeah, that's not supposed to be there. Let's find out why. It's a cracked glass LCD screen. Can't be fixed, so it goes into the pile of Game Gears that will need new screens someday. This next one has some serious audio issues that are very easy to address though. See how it's crackly and inconsistent when you adjust the volume? At first you'd think that it was the speaker, but it's really the soundboard that's the problem. More specifically, it's the volume dial itself. These can get dirty on the inside, and rather than replacing them, you can drip IPA into one edge until you start to see it come out the other side. Then move the dial while applying some pressure to the front so the inner parts get soaked and sort of self-clean. Continue to drip more IPA in as needed to work it around for a few minutes. It will normally fix the problem, but if it doesn't, it may need to be replaced completely. But it should sound nice and smooth like this. I also had a bit of corrosion on the housing pads of another one that needed to be removed. And just relax, this pad doesn't connect to anything and is only there to stabilize the board against the housing. So using a small screwdriver that's made of hardened steel to remove the corrosion is just fine. I just like seeing it get clean in seconds flat, and thought you might too. But I was able to get 3 more black Game Gears finished and listed them online right away since I had already sold my other one earlier in the month. Speaking of which, I have a coupon code available for 5% off anything in my eBay store available to my YouTube subscribers. If you're interested, click on the link to my store below and use code YouTube2024 during checkout. My future self and the repair challenge thanks you. On to more fixes. So this next one is kind of funny. I kept getting messages from Mercari about some credit that was given to me, and I just kept ignoring them for weeks. I was finally annoyed enough to click on one of the emails and found out it was a free $10 to spend on anything over $10. So I found the cheapest good-looking copy of Super Mario Bros. Deluxe that I could find that needed a new battery, and bought that. The seller got $25.41, and I paid $15.41. Hey, if you're gonna give me free money, I'll put it to good use. But this game was already in good shape and just needed a new save battery, which is pretty simple. Only took me about 15 minutes and I relisted online for about 35 bucks. If you'd like a full explanation of the swapping out of batteries and cartridges, check out this video on my channel right here. Now on to the craziness that happened over the next week or so. Or not, because I'm running out of time in order to finish this video. I know this one's getting a little long, but I still have a lot more stuff to tell you about what happened this last month. So I'm going to split this one up into 2 parts, and I'll get the next one done by next week, but unfortunately I know it's a bit of a letdown that it won't all be released together, but I just want to have enough time to be able to show you everything that I had gotten done and everything else that had happened. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. See ya.